Well, there's no question that the financial cataclysm worldwide also has its impact on the poorest countries. Those who have just begun to have a minimum level of self-subsistence, largely by exporting products, all of a sudden are caught up in an economy where exports are cut back. And that's a major tragedy, because they're on the threshold of being able to support themselves and now are going to have a much more difficult time doing that. The very poorest countries are even poorer, and they are not at the point where they have major benefits from international trade. They still have to get to that point. And that makes it really imperative that the international community continue to give assistance of the sort that the IRC implements in places after conflict. Again, basic water and sanitation, basic health care, basic education, all in the interest of having people get to a point where they can support themselves. Well, I think the most important agenda for the G20 is going to be to get enough stimulus into the world economy in order to begin to unfreeze the credit markets and get trade reestablished and the rest. And that, if that happens, that will benefit not only the developed world, but it will also be crucial for the developing world. And I think it's appropriate that that be the focus of attention. I'm very pleased that both Barack Obama and Gordon Brown have also focused on the need to have increased funding for the International Monetary Fund, because that will target directly those countries who simply can't raise credit themselves, especially in this market. And as you know, the talk has been about raising another $1 trillion, or at least $500 billion, preferably $1 trillion, for this kind of further lending, which will be critical for helping to jumpstart the economies of these poorer parts of the world. So I would say fixing the overall, the global economy, injecting credit into the IMF, which will allow it to work with the poorest countries, are both very important priorities. And then the developed world as a whole has to continue to make progress toward achieving the goals of financial support and development support for the poorest countries in the world that all of the developed world has committed itself to, but only very imperfectly achieved. Over a period of the last 15 or 20 years, finance and economics have become the single largest majors in many of the most selective colleges and universities. That is a trend that I was not terribly sanguine about it when I was at Columbia. And I think it will no longer be quite so much the case, that the notion that majoring in economics and finance is a certain way of moving forward in terms of one's career. And I think that's a gain. I think that the value of two, I'll speak only about Columbia, but two deep traditions at Columbia are only, the value is only clearer in the current climate. The first is the insistence on need-blind admission, which Columbia has been deeply committed to and continues to be committed to, namely that the very best students are admitted irrespective of their capacity to pay, and applications for financial assistance, or even the knowledge whether there is an application for financial assistance, is only considered after the admissions decisions are made. I think that's very important, because Columbia has been an engine of upward mobility for generations of people, not only in New York, but across the world, and it needs to continue to do that. So that's one tradition that I very much hope will continue to be affirmed. The second has to do specifically with undergraduate education at Columbia College, and it's the core curriculum. And the core curriculum is very old-fashioned. It's very much a luxury in the sense that we are convinced it is valuable for all students to learn history, philosophy, literature in a way that too often doesn't happen in colleges and universities anymore. The value of that commitment, I think, is only the clearer when the kind of economic meltdown that we've experienced happens. It doesn't necessarily lead immediately to very high-powered jobs, but it leads to a kind of resilience and an ability to see broader patterns, which I think is extremely valuable when the going gets tough in a society like this.